Hello, good morning. I hope that you're well and that you've had a good week. I've had a fabulous week. It's been busy, but in a really lovely way. Bertie Boo and I have continued getting in some very long walks, and these aren't summer walks any longer. It's a wrap up warm and be prepared for wet weather type of walking. But walking in Cornwall, or walking anywhere, it doesn't matter what the season is, the countryside, it's always so beautiful. This week we've got several walks in woodlands and forestry. Because it's been so wet, the trees have afforded us some shelter, and the colours in the woodlands at the moment with the autumn leaves, they're just breathtaking, and there's nothing quite like walking on fallen leaves, and they're crisp and they're scrunchy. Bertie's loving it, he sort of snuffles along in the leaves, picking up all sorts of scents. Walking this week has given me great inspiration. I've had something or a design sort of going around my brain for quite some time, and when I walk I find great inner peace, and after a very long walk I had a nap, and in my nap all the elements of this design came to me and clicked into place. So this week I have been very, very busy getting down, I should say into the computer, my design. So I haven't done a lot of stitching. I've been beavering away on the PC, but stitching wise, I went back to work on Cicely Margaret Ingram. Her name is now on the sampler, and this is a beautiful sampler. I love the colours. It's a very different colour palette for me, but some very delicate colours, and I love the elegance of the font for the alphabets. We're going to get some lovely little motifs at the bottom now, which makes her quite interesting. I like working with different things. It keeps you fresh. Cicely Margaret Ingram has a fabulous backstory. We know so much about her, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with you further down the line. What else has happened this week? Well, relating to hats, we've had 2 new releases. The first one, which we are very, very excited about, is Marsha Darden. And I don't know how the colours are looking today because it's such a grim, overcast day, but Marsha, her sampler is so pretty. We fell in love with this beautiful vine border with those plump pink rosebuds. So pretty. I hope the colours are picking up in this light. You can never tell when you're recording a video. Lots and lots of sweet little elements to this sampler. We've got the Tree of Knowledge, but no Adam and Eve. We've got lots and lots of birds, wonky trees. When you get trees or anything that's sort of like a little bit odd, an anomaly, it's so endearing because these are children stitching these samplers. Love the star over the roof of the house as well. Now this sampler, or the model, was stitched by Marsha Darden, and Marsha shares the same initials with Marsha Dawson, so we thought it was very apt that Marsha stitched Martha's sampler. And this is Marsha's first model for hats, and she's already completed a second model for us and eager to start her third one. We held Martha's release back to the end of this year for a very specific purpose. I picked up the model when I was last in the States at the Nashville Needlework Market, and Krista Kramer of Just Stitching Along, who co-admins our Sampler Years Facebook group, saw Martha, and she fell head over heels in love with her, and she said, I've got to stitch that as soon as she's released. Anyway, as Krista and I do, we got talking, and Krista said that she would very much like Martha to be the Stitch Along project for 2021 for our Sampler Years, which Krista will lead. And the Stitch Along for our Sampler Years is always very popular. This year, the Stitch Along is Anne Roberts. I'm sure that for those of you who are on Facebook and Instagram, you will have seen that many people are stitching Anne, and there's been lots of finishes, and Krista's already done her October live stitching videos. There's only 2 more months to go on Anne Roberts, and then people would have finished her. Now, what Krista is going to do with the Stitch Along, and I've printed it off so that I get it right. The Stitch Along will start on January the 1st. Because we love Stitch Alongs, they're great fun, they're great ways for you to connect with other stitchers, make friends, and those friendships carry on through the years. And also, if you're stitching for the first time, there's lots of people to help you and share the experience with you. So we love Stitch Alongs. So we are putting up a prize for the end of the Stitch Along year, and everybody who completes Martha in that 12 months are eligible to go into the draw for the original of Alice Williams. And Alice Williams is a sampler that we are currently, the models, because there's 3 models of this one are being stitched, and this is a delightful sampler. And idleness is the thief of time is just a fabulous little sentiment to have on a sampler. And what's unusual about Alice is that this is a very early example of over-dyed threads. And these are over-dyed wool threads stitched in 1881, and over-dyed threads, they are very much sort of a 20th century concept rather than a 19th century concept. But this sampler proves that they were around, and I was talking to Claudia Dutcher-Kitzler, and Claudia, besides being a renowned Bristol orphanage collector, she really does have a vast knowledge and a vast collection of embroidered paper, and she has an embroidered box in her collection from 1880 that is stitched with over-dyed wools. Honestly, you just do not see them from that period very often. So this is a very nice prize for the Stitch Along, and somebody has to win this sampler, and it could be you. We're also going to put up a second prize of a £50 English voucher to be spent on the Hands Across the Sea Samplers website as well. Now let's have a little look and see what Krista says about the Stitch Along. Participants are encouraged to post their progress updates in our Sampler Years Facebook group throughout their stitching journey. Sharing across social media is encouraged, and of course enabling others to join in the fun. And she says, please use the hashtag Martha Dawson OSYSAL, and that is our Sampler Years Stitch Along. Participants can jump in and out of the SAL whenever they want. They can join at any time. There's no fee for the stitch along. All you need to do is to purchase the PDF download, which is available on the Hands Across the Sea Samplers website, and your materials. Krista has divided the sampler up into 12 monthly sections, and that's how she is going to stitch the sampler. You don't have to follow her stitch plan. You can stitch this sampler as you want. You can sit down and just stitch it straight off, or you can spread it out along the year and stitch it in the order that you want to. Krista will have live Stitch With Me videos each month, and they have been extremely popular this year for Anne Roberts. I think that's probably about it for the stitch along, except that Krista has tested many different fabrics for Martha, and I think that her favourite one was Parisian taupe linen by Silk Weavers, and it does look very nice with the threads. But I think that it's really important that you choose the linen that appeals to your eye. Krista's going to stitch her Martha Dawson with Auvert Soie's 103 silks, and Krista has come up with a really ingenious way of storing her silks while she's stitching with them. Now, I've seen these spools threaded on a ribbon and the ribbon tied together so it makes like a necklace or a bracelet, but Krista has taken that concept one step further, and she has placed a button on the end of her ribbon, and then she's threaded her ribbon through several spools, and the button stops the spools splitting off, and she's made several lengths of these spools in numerical order, and then she's tied them onto a metal ring, which she's added her threads, what do you call them, thread fob, onto that, and it just hooks onto the side of her stitching stand, and I think that's absolutely brilliant. I'm sure that I'm going to be doing that as well. I think that's about it for the stitch along. So what can I tell you about Martha herself? Well, Martha was most probably born in Unsworth, Prestwich, and her parents were Isaac Dawson and Molly Holt. Her parents were not married when she was baptised, but they did marry later on. I think it was 2 years later that they married. Neither of her parents could sign their name. They both signed the marriage record with a cross. Martha was born in 1821. Her father was a weaver, and weaving was one of the main occupations in this area. It was a renowned area for weaving linen and other textiles as well. This sampler on the original, when it arrived, it had some notes on the back of the sampler, and those notes, it was somebody else's research from many, many decades ago, and it was noted that this building or house that was featured in Martha's sampler was demolished to make way for the Prestwich Lunatic Asylum, and that means, if that was the case, that this house was, now let me just find this now, in the Prestwich Wood Estate. And it's always really nice when you can find out a little bit about the houses that appear in the samplers. Her verses, I crave not riches nor length of days. Lord, give me the wisdom to direct my ways. And I think that's a really lovely verse on a sampler. The sampler is stitched entirely with cross stitch. On the original there is some over one, which is on part of her name and on the verse. And what we have done, we have provided two separate versions of Martha's sampler. You have a one that's cross stitch over 1 and 2, and then you have a version where the verse and the dedication has been changed so that you can stitch the sampler on Ada or Linada, or in fact linen, but only with cross stitch over 2. So with the download you get a 12-page colour chart of the true reproduction and a black and white 12-page chart, and then you get 12-page charts in colour and black and white for the adapted version, and then you will also get 1-page versions of the colour and black and white for both the reproduction and the adaptation. So there are actually 8 graphs with the download, and you can choose which one that you would like to stitch from. Just a small reminder that the 1-page graphs are not intended to be printed because everything would be so closely packed together you couldn't possibly work from it. Those 1-page graphs are intended to be stitched from your phone, your iPad, your computer screen, your laptop or your TV screen, because you'll have 1 page that you can blow it up as big as you want. You can move around the chart with no overlaps. The sampler uses 21 different colours. There are a lot of very delicate colours in this sampler. I wish the light was better today so you could see and enjoy these really lovely colours in this sampler. Very, very pretty sampler. We stitched the model using Lakeside linen purled barley, but you can really stitch this on many different makes and colours of linen, or Ada or Linada. The model was stitched with Auvert-Ossoise d'Alger silks, but we provide a conversion for the 103 and DMC, and because this is a PDF and we have lots of room in a PDF to put in as much information as we want, we have provided thread quantities for 103 using 1 strand on 46, Soie d'Alger 1 strand on 46, Soie d'Alger 1 strand on 36 count, DMC 2 strands on 36 count, Soie d'Alger and DMC with 2 strands on 28 count, so that we are very well aware that not everybody stitches on a high count or a low count, so we're trying to cater for everybody's needs. The stitch count is 264 stitches by 276 stitches. So if you were going to stitch this on 14 count Ada, which is 28 count linen, the design size would be 18.86 by 19.71. If you were going to stitch it on 18 count Ada, which is 36 count linen, it would be 14.67 by 15.33. And if you were going to stitch it on 46 count linen, it would be 11.48 inches by 12 inches. So there we have Martha Dawson. She's available for download on our website, and we hope that you will join Krista in the Stitch Along for 2021. The Anne Roberts Stitch Along this year in the group has been so successful, and it's been so enjoyable seeing so many Anne Roberts being finished. Great fun stitch-alongs. Now, this week we also had, I'm losing my voice, I talk too much, that's what my husband tells me. We also saw a slightly unplanned release, but last weekend I showed you my sampler that I stitched for my husband. This was meant to be his Valentine's Day's gift for this year, but unfortunately because of volume of work with the Jane Marshall fundraiser, I just didn't have a chance to finish this sampler. So this has become my Valentine's Day gift for 2021 for my husband. And when I showed this last weekend and I asked if people would be interested in stitching the sampler, my gosh, my emails and my messenger box were full of requests, and I'm very touched that others would like to stitch this sampler. The bottom is rice stitch, and I wanted to have a slightly rough texture because it's sort of very male. You know, men are masculine and strong. The colours I chose from my husband's favourite shirt because I wanted this to be a sampler for him that appealed to him and his tastes. The verse, "Thy love divine that made me thine shall keep me thine forever." It's all about when you love somebody, it is always and forever. And I promised my husband when I married him that I would love him always and forever. So this is a verse that's very appropriate for a sampler that's celebrating our love. This sampler has been stitched entirely with cross stitch over 2 or rice stitch. So this sampler is suitable for linen, lineda or Ada. Rice stitch is not a difficult stitch if you haven't stitched it before. It actually stitches up really, really quickly, and in the download for Thy Love Divine there are clear instructions, and once you stitch rice stitch you will love that stitch and be amazed how quickly it covers the area. Now this sampler, it's a celebration of my love for my husband. This sampler, when you stitch it, should be a celebration of your love for your beloved, and you should make it your own. You can stitch this exactly as I stitched it. That is what the PDF download, the little gem, it's charted exactly as I stitched it, and I gave my colours. But when you stitch this sampler, you should play around with it. I actually, at the beginning of this year, sent the PDF to a friend, Kathy Bourne, and I said to Kathy, well, in fact, I'd shared this with Kathy and she loved it, so I shared my PDF with her, and I said to her, make this your own, just play with it. So she pulled colours from her stash, and her colour choices are really, really beautiful. Kathy didn't keep a note of the colours that she used because she literally just pulled odds and ends from her stash that appealed to her, and she knew that her husband would enjoy as well. And Kathy embellished the sampler in her own way. She personalised it, and I think that when you start experimenting and changing things and investing more of yourself into a design, you will grow as a needleworker. So I hope that when you stitch Thy Love Divine, that you will do that as well. This would make a beautiful gift to give to somebody who is getting married, celebrating a special anniversary, or you yourself celebrating a wedding anniversary. And it's just really lovely to sort of stitch just because you love somebody and you want to commemorate that love for that person. It will stitch up very, very quickly. This is there isn't much in this sampler. It's a very, very straightforward one to stitch, and I hope you enjoy it. The colours I chose, as I said before, because they are colours my husband loves. I took his favourite shirt, and this is, my husband loves quite flamboyant shirts, and these colours come from his favourite shirts. So it's a slightly unusual colour palette, but actually at this time of year, going into autumn, it works really, really well. So let me tell you a little bit about my design. Okay, I used 9 colours. You could use more or you could use less, because this is your sampler celebrating your love for somebody special. If you use 9 colours, you will only need 1 spool or 1 skein of all the colours except 1 colour if you are stitching with 2 strands of soie d'Alger on 36 count or lower. Otherwise, if you were, say, stitching DMC on 28 count, you would only need 1 skein. The stitch count is 120 stitches by 211. If you are going to stitch this on 14 count Aida, which is 28 count linen, it will be 8.57 by 15.07. If you are going to stitch this on 18 count Aida, which is 36 count linen, it will be 6.67 by 11.72. And if you are going to stitch this on 46 count, it would be 5.22 by 9.17. It's not a large sampler at all. The linen that I used in this sampler was Weeks Dye Works Confederate Grey, and it really showcases the colours very, very well. Confederate Grey is a lovely colour, and it really makes the silks glow, very much so. So that's available on the Hands Across the Sea Samplers website for instant download at just a cost of £10. This one is a little gem. What else has happened this week? I had a linen delivery, and it was from Ducas of X-Jude Designs, and I want to show you these colours because these colours are new to me, and the colour is Little Bunny, and Little Bunny matches DMC 535 and 01. It's in between those 2 colours. Very, very nice colour. And then the other colour that was new to me was light mustard, and the light mustard was very much like DMC 3023. Lovely, lovely colour on that. And I hope to find something to stitch on this colour. It's really, really nice, and it changes with the light considerably. The rest of my sorry about that. I had a phone call feed through from my phone to my iPad, and it caused the video to stop. A few weeks ago, I showed a small piece of fabric called Marbled Pointer, and my order for, well, I ordered a lot of it because I really like this colour, came this week. Now, when I showed this colour in my other video, it was quite sort of splotchy, but this one has come through slightly different. It's vintaged and it's gorgeous, and in fact I prefer this one. It's really, really lovely. But we all have to understand that when fabrics are being over-dyed, you know, you can't produce all the linen the same. This is just really, really lovely. Really, really nice. And I'm certainly going to be putting a sampler into production on this linen very, very soon. I love that sort of vein that shows through it. It adds sort of age and character to the linen without making it too dirty or too grungy. So yeah, that's going to provide linen for quite a lot of samplers. That really is about everything that I had to show you this week. I'm looking forward to joining a Zoom stitching this evening. I did the Zoom stitching last Sunday evening, and I really, really enjoyed myself. At these times where we can't really get together safely, Zoom stitchings are great fun, and you never know who's going to dial in, so you get to meet new people and to spend time with old friends as well. If you don't belong to Facebook, on Facebook there is a wonderful, wonderful needlework community that you can make sort of like old-fashioned pen pals. You can make long-distance friends and share your needlework with them and be inspired by them, enabled by them, and you can inspire and enable other people as well. I know that there's a lot of people who are very lonely, and particularly so this year with our COVID restrictions, but there is this wonderful needlework community on Facebook which you can enjoy. So if you're not on Facebook, pop along to Facebook and just see. You could make some wonderful, wonderful friends. Anyway, I hope that everybody has a good week ahead, and stay safe, stay well, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye-bye.